Let's unbox the kit. Got a bunch of pieces of paper that we'll get to in a second. We've got a piece of cloth. Got some floss on cards, or on a card. And then we've got supplies. So we've got a screwdriver. We've got a pencil. We've got a water-soluble pen. I've got a pair of scissors, very sharp, very, very sharp. Be careful. We've got 4 clips. These clips help secure fabric. We've got a needle threader. We've got a piece of thread wax. We've got some bobbins. And then we've got a thimble and 2 pom-poms. One has 1 needle. That'll be your sharp needle, which you typically won't use for stitching. It's for to break up knots. And then you'll get the other pom-pom, which will have 2 needles, and those are your dull needles, or the ones that you will want to stitch with, unless you enjoy torturing your own fingers. And then we have our hoop. So that's everything that's inside of the kit. So, and that kind of goes over the very first piece of paper that you see, which is the inventory list for the kit. And then the other papers that we have are, this is our floss guide. So this will show us which position on the card is which color. So that is very handy. And then we've got a glossary of terms, which I will kind of explain a lot of these. So cross stitch, using the floss, and not the whole piece of floss, but individual threads within the floss, to create a simple X stitch on a soft fabric like Aida, or sometimes even weave. This kit that you guys are opening is going to be Aida cloth. Needlepoint uses either yarn or the full 6 strands of the embroidery floss on a open weave canvas with different styles of stitches, so that you can technically do needlepoint on any fabric. It doesn't need to have something that is gridded per se. Embroidery is the broad category that both needlepoint and cross stitch fall into. We have our pattern, which is underneath these sheets of paper. That's going to be our grid of symbols. That tells you which square to put which color in. You've got your full stitch, which is the standard X 3/4, which this kit does not have, and most of the kits so all of the beginner kits will not have 3/4 stitch or any other types of stitches. Those are where the intermediate and advanced stitches will have some more of those decorative stitches. But the 3/4, you do one side of the X and then only half of the second pass. Half stitch is literally only 1/2 of the stitch. French knot is a knot that creates texture. Sometimes on more advanced kits would be used to create eyeballs on figures, or like a teddy bear's eyes or something like that. Aida is the fabric, so this is Aida. It is pre-drilled. Well, not really pre-drilled, but the way it's created and the way it's made is you have these naturally forming holes that you will stitch into, so you don't actually have to move the threads of the fabric itself to stitch. All of your stitches will use the holes that are already on the Aida cloth. So that's Aida. It comes in different counts. This particular piece that I'm holding is an 11 count. I have serged it to prevent fraying, so that when I am stitching, I don't have to worry about losing any of the excess fabric that I will need during finishing. So that's a nice little perk, that all of the kits will have serged edges on the fabric included, as an assistance there. This is an 11 count pattern. Aida, like I said, comes in 11, 14, 16, 18. The higher the number, the smaller the individual stitches are, because the number corresponds to the number of stitches in an inch. So with this being 11, there's 11 stitches per inch. Now, floss is what we refer to as embroidery thread, or what embroidery thread is referred to as. So this is all embroidery floss. It's typically made of cotton. The stuff in this kit is 6-stranded. So when you look at a particular thread, down at the end, you can tell that it will separate out into 6 full strands. And we will end up using typically 2, maybe 3, depending on preference, strands that will be threaded at one time. So each of these threads will get separated out and be used multiple times. Bobbins, which are these little plastic cards that I've included, are what I typically will wind my floss on for pattern use. The cards are handy when packing a kit, but I typically refer to having just the bobbins full of floss, and I'll show you how to wind those in a little bit. The wax that I mentioned that is included, this helps condition your floss. So if you are having issues with a lot of knotting or fraying or floss breakage, the thread wax will assist with that, and I'll show you how to condition your floss in a little bit as well. Now pictured is a needle minder. They are magnets, or magnetic. And let me so just grabbed a couple of magnets from my workstation here. So what needle minders do is they go on the fabric itself. So you'll take one magnet on one side, one on the other, and when you're stitching, if you're not actively stitching, it'll hold your needle. It can have thread attached to your needle if you're pausing mid-color, or if you're setting it down for a while and you're done with a thread and you just want to make sure you can always find your needle. The needle minder is really handy for that. That way you don't have needles running amok that you're stepping on, because trust me, I've done it. It's not fun. So that is the needle minder. I mean, obviously this is just 2 magnets. They do come in fancier options if you choose to. Purchase your own needle minder to have that. I will be making sure that magnets are included in each kit. And then you've got your needle threader. So this is a tool designed to help you thread your needle. So if you're having issues getting the floss in just on its own, you would stick the needle minder through the eye of the needle, and then you can put your floss through the needle minder and be able to pull it out, and you have a threaded needle. I also have some other tips and tricks that I use my needle threader for, beyond just threading the eye of a needle, and I will show you that in a later video. The water-soluble marker is really great for marking your Aida cloth. I tend to grid mine by making blue lines every 10 stitches, so that would and that does correspond to the grid on your pattern that is typically going to be in bright red, to help you find your stitches and find where you're at when you're doing your counting. And I'll go over more of that as we go on to how to read a pattern, how to grid, and all of that. And then the pencil's included because when looking at a bobbin, the best tool I have found for writing on these bobbins is a pencil. It stays on there really well, but when you're ready to erase it, so like let's say if I wanted to make this color number, let me grab one of mine from my list. So let's say I wanted to take and do number 1, position number 1, which is a green. But the color number is 469. So that it writes really smoothly on the bobbin. But let's say I change my mind and I don't really want this one to be 469. I want to start with a different color. I can still easily erase it and choose a different color. So pencil does work best for writing on the bobbins. So that's why that is included. And then you have your clips. And these are to control the excess Aida that you have from around the hoop. And that is not currently being worked on. I did not include hoop on my glossary of terms. Well, I'll have to add that before I get the kits shipped out. So hoops, and I'll just go over them even though they're not on the glossary. A hoop is something that helps control tension. On the Aida, it's 2 pieces. You have your inner and your outer. The outer size is controlled by this top little screw, which you can manually adjust if you have the finger strength, or if you don't, to get the right tension, you can use the screwdriver, which is included, to tighten that once you have the fabric in it. But it gives you a controlled section to work on, so that the whole project isn't overwhelming you, while also making sure that the Aida cloth stays in tension, which is, it's easier to stitch when there's tension on the fabric. So that is why we have the hoop. So that is the kit itself. That's the contents of the kit explained. Tune into the next video where I will go over how to prep your fabric to start stitching.